Hello and welcome, and thank you for tuning in to this video on what Donny Van De Beek can bring to Manchester United. United are reportedly working on a deal to sign Van De Beek, who's very keen on a move to the Premier League. The talented Dutch midfielder is also reportedly a target for Ronald Koeman at Barcelona, a move which could see him rekindle his former Ajax partnership in midfield with Frenkie de Jong. So, a little background to Van De Beek. He's a versatile midfielder. He can play as a 6, an 8 or a 10. He can play anywhere across the midfield and play all of those positions in a very accomplished manner. As you'd expect of an Ajax Academy graduate, he's exceptional technically. He's very gifted with the ball at his feet, and in terms of his intelligence and movement, he's also top class. We'll now see an example which shows how Van De Beek's intelligence and off-ball movement could be incredibly useful to Manchester United. This is taken from Ajax's great run to the Champions League semi-finals 2 years ago. Van De Beek was just 21 years old at this point, and he put in a brilliant performance that night. Here I've circled him in blue. Watch his movement as the play unfolds. So the first blue circle you'll see here is Dusan Tadic, Ajax's false 9. And the reason I've circled him is because in this example, he's pulled across to the left in a similar manner to what we see from Anthony Martial at Manchester United. Van De Beek has picked up a very good position in between Real Madrid's midfield and defensive lines. So right here, Carvajal is focused on the Ajax left back, Varane is focused on Dusan Tadic, and the position that Van De Beek finds himself in is a brilliant one. Casemiro is attracted to the ball, so Van De Beek has got a big pocket of space opening up around him. Moving on again, look at the way Casemiro is travelling. He's trying to cut out that ball to Dusan Tadic. And just a split second after this, look at the space Donny Van De Beek suddenly finds himself in. Absolute acres of space in between the Madrid centre-backs, in between the defensive midfield, in a brilliant position between the lines. Going forward again, at this point he's practically in a number 9 role. He's almost on the last man at this point, and he's attracting Sergio Ramos' attention. As that ball now goes out to the left back, look at where Van De Beek is on the edge of the box. Now, that ball goes infield to David Neres. Look at where Van De Beek is here. He's hardly moved, just a couple of yards infield. You can see Toni Kroos is right next to him. As we move it on again, you can see, look, Van De Beek's hardly moved again. But Toni Kroos has been sucked towards the ball. Now, 4 Madrid players get sucked towards the ball, but look at the insane amount of space Donny Van De Beek has in a central position on the edge of the Real Madrid penalty area. And this has all come from him standing still. As the ball comes back to him now, you wouldn't begrudge him having a shot. After all, you don't find this amount of space in such an important game very often. But no, Van De Beek has the presence of mind here to draw in the Real Madrid left back, pause on the ball, and then slide in Hakim Ziyech instead. Ziyech didn't end up scoring, so unlucky Chelsea. But in all seriousness, what this clip shows is how intelligent Van De Beek is. Initially, he made some great movements to get into space, and in the latter phase of that move, he simply stood still and let everyone else move around him, knowing that space would open up for him. And at the end, he showed he's a great team player and has the presence of mind to not get distracted by the glory himself and play in a teammate who's in a better position. In terms of a personal quality, that's something that Solskjaer will be very keen on. Let's now move on and take a look at some stats on Donny Van De Beek. In his last 3 seasons, he scored at least 10 goals in all competitions, which is a fantastic return for a midfielder. Looking at where United fell behind City and Liverpool this season, they scored the fewest goals of any team in the top 5 of the Premier League. United scored 19 goals fewer than Liverpool, and an extortionate amount fewer than Manchester City, as you can see from this table. Clearly, Van De Beek's goals would be a much welcome addition to United's midfield. If we now delve a little bit deeper and compare Van De Beek's detailed stats with those of United's current midfield, we can see what he'd bring to the team. Going up the graph here, you've got non-penalty, expected goals and expected assists. The reason I've used expected values is because for goals, the expected value is determined by the positions the shots are taken from, so it shows how often these midfielders get into good goal-scoring positions. And for assists, it takes out the value of having a bad finisher on your team. If you put a chance on a plate for them, a 5-yard tap-in, and they miss it, the expected value will still be the same. Therefore, it's a very good measure of creativity and positioning. Along the bottom, I've got passes into the penalty area per 90 minutes, which is again a useful creativity metric. So what you can see from this graph is that Van de Beek is similarly effective to Fred, McTominay and Matic in terms of moving the ball into the penalty area by passing. What he's much better at than any existing United midfielder though is getting into good positions and having a good final ball. You can see though from the graph as well that Van de Beek has a very different profile to anything United currently have, and playing him with Pogba and Bruno Fernandes would lead to a terrific offensive midfield. Of course though, that does leave question marks about their defensive game. Looking at a chart now of their defensive contribution, which has been adjusted for possession, you can see Van de Beek is a very hard worker for the team defensively. He attempts a lot of pressures. Only Bruno and Fred, who's right on the right hand side of that graph, are ahead of him in terms of United's current midfielders in that respect. In terms of total defensive actions though, which includes things like tackles, clearances, blocks, interceptions, Van de Beek is clearly some way behind Scott McTominay and Nemanja Matic. This would give some concerns as to whether you could start Van de Beek, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes in the midfield together. One way to address this though is use Van de Beek as a rotation option. Given the number of games United will be playing pretty much every 3 days for the next calendar year, it's likely that United will need to freshen up often, so if you can have top quality replacements coming off the bench, it'll be brilliant for United. But if United did want to play all of those together, they could opt for a diamond midfield. We've seen it previously when Ole first took over the job against Chelsea in the Cup, and we've seen it more recently against Everton in the league. And with Matic sitting deep, with Van de Beek and Pogba as box-to-box midfielders and Bruno as an attacking midfielder, just behind the front two of Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial, that is a terrific lineup and one of the best midfields in the world. That will provide plenty of defensive cover whilst also being offensively absolutely brilliant. So it would add a different option, a different system that Ole could go with and be reliably good in it. Ultimately, it would add an extra layer of unpredictability to how United might line up for big games. In every sense then, we've seen through this video that Donny Van De Beek will be an absolutely terrific signing for Manchester United, and I'm personally desperate that this happens as soon as possible. I want to see Van de Beek in Manchester for pre-season and at Old Trafford very soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, do go subscribe to my channel, StatmanCam on YouTube, and drop me a follow on Twitter and Instagram, at StatmanCam there as well. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.